Hi, and welcome to the Thrive Alcohol Free podcast. I'm Dupe Witherick, alcohol free wellbeing and transformational coach, and the best selling author of A Cocktail of Clarity, How to Ditch Drinking, Embody a Joyful New Identity, and Thrive Alcohol Free. This podcast will show you that being alcohol free is not what the traditional narrative says. And even though alcohol is so ingrained in our society that it is okay to give yourself permission to stop drinking if you want to. And you do not have to wait until you hit rock bottom. It is certainly not boring, and I believe ditching drinking is just the start to living an extraordinary life. By getting rid of this one thing, it allows the doors to open to endless possibilities and opportunities. Each week, we will have guests on who are at various stages of the alcohol-free journey, from those who are curious to those who have been alcohol-free for years. We will also have experts on talking about different topics relating to alcohol and beyond. Through these conversations, you will discover what it means to thrive alcohol-free. Enjoy. Hi, and welcome to the latest episode of the Thrive Alcohol Free podcast. I'm Dupe, your host, and I'm delighted you're here listening. I hope you've had a great week. I've had a really lovely week. I've actually paused and stopped myself from doing what I would normally do. So I really feel like I've rested for a few days. I've had a bit of a digital detox as well. So I always encourage people to take a digital detox. And I've had 5 days without going on to Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, any social media. I haven't checked emails. It's been absolutely amazing. It's been wonderful to just relax and to refresh and take time to think and regroup and just think about what I want to do next and where I'm going. And I think it gives you time to really switch off. So if you haven't taken a break from social media or had a holiday in a while, I encourage it. And if you do, just try to switch off and try to relax. And it's amazing how you can then really tune into yourself and your inner being. And I always think we get so pulled by in so many different directions by the world and by everything outside of us. And sometimes we forget to look inwards and to actually think, what is it that I really want? What is it that I want to do? What is it that's going to drive me, help me, make me feel like I'm doing what's the best thing for me and my family and my life? Because we can get so caught up with what everyone else is doing and get into a comparison mode and feel like we are not quite good enough or not quite living up to what everyone else is doing or doing it in a different way. But we're allowed to be our own people and to do things in a different way. And they say that comparison is the thief of all joy, and I absolutely agree with that. I think we're all here in this life to be our unique authentic selves. And certainly for me, since ditching drinking nearly 4 years ago, I feel like I'm growing every day into my more authentic self. And I love that. I love the fact that I give myself permission to be me. But when I take a break, like I have done for the past 5 days or so, and I step away and step off the world for a bit, it just reminds me that I am capable and enough to do anything I want to do. And life can be what we make it. So I hope that's helpful for you today and maybe gives you some food for thought and also gives you permission to be you and to take a break and to just switch off. It will still be there when you get back. Nothing goes away. I logged onto Instagram and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm sure I've missed a few posts here and there, but life hasn't stopped. The world hasn't, you haven't fallen off the world. You're allowed to do it. So I would encourage you, as I said, I'd encourage you to take a break. It's the 1st of August today, and it's a new month. Why not do something different? And on that note, I'm so excited that today I'm kicking off alcohol-free August. So if you've been thinking, I want to take a break from alcohol, and you know you're ready to do so, you know that life could be better in some way, spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally, then I encourage you to join me on Alcohol Free August. I will be going live every day on Instagram to encourage you, inspire you, and I will be giving you a tip every day to help you on the journey so you can do 31 days without alcohol and enjoy it and thrive and experience what that means. And so I encourage you, if you have been thinking about taking a break, if you're ready to take a break, then why not start today? They say day one or one day. What do you think? Maybe you'd like to join me. And it certainly may feel like it's not the best time to take a break in August. It's the height of summer. We're all enjoying ourselves. We're all on holiday. We're all thinking, children are off school. How would I be able to cope without alcohol? But I tell you what, you are not giving anything up. You're only gaining. And there are so many tools and tricks and tips that will help you, and resources that I have that will help you to take a break and realize you're not missing out at all. And actually, you'll feel so much better. You'll see the benefits. And then who knows where you'll be at the end of August. In 31 days, life could be completely different and you could feel completely different. So join me from today. I'll be going live every day and I can't wait to see you. So head to at Thrive Alcohol Free on Instagram. I'll also post it on TikTok and YouTube as well. So feel free to go on to whichever platform you would like. And I hope this helps you on your journey. Okay, so my guest today is Chrissy Janiga. And Chrissy is a mum, wife, social worker, author, and certified alcohol-free mindset, success, and NLP coach. Chrissy helps women to remove alcohol, to love living alcohol-free, and to manifest their desires and find their soul purpose. Chrissy and I have a really wonderful conversation. She tells her story. We talk about moderation. We talk about what it means to not feel like you're that bad, to stop drinking. We talk about health and also something that I always say, and I'm sure you know this by now, that being alcohol free is really a personal growth journey. And so, without further ado, here is the conversation with Chrissy. Okay, so welcome, Chrissy. Thank you so much for being on the Thrive Alcohol Free podcast. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great. Well, I'm sure a few people will probably know you from Instagram and from your children's books and other things, but why don't you introduce yourself and maybe then we can go into what brings you to being on the Thrive Alcohol Free podcast.
Yeah, so I am a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a social worker. I've been a social worker for 16 years. I've been a coach for now over a year. So I help with sobriety coaching, manifestation coaching, and really helping people figure out their bigger vision. And I love doing that. And recently I started a podcast, Soulful and Sober. And so my mission really is to help people, you know, not just stay sober, but love being sober. And that's given me so much purpose. And so it's been very, very exciting.
Yay. And I love that. That's exactly it. It's not about just staying sober, is it? It's about the what next and how
Mhm.
exciting life can be when you stop drinking and you can absolutely enjoy yourself. So we're on the same page, absolutely. And you can thrive, of course. So you obviously don't drink and you now help other, is it mainly women or men or just everyone?
Yeah, it's
Um,
mainly women. Yeah, mainly women. Although I would not say no to a man if it was a line, but
yeah,
usually
yeah.
women reach out to me for the most part.
Perfect. Okay. So, can I ask how you got to the point where you decided to stop drinking and what brought that on? And maybe a bit of your alcohol journey before we go into your alcohol-free journey.
Yeah, so I think alcohol, I believe it became more problematic in my 30s where I had actual consequences happen. The consequences being I would black out, I would get too emotional, I would say things that were embarrassing. Oh, my sleep was disrupted. I hated having a hangover. I'm also a relatively healthy person, so working out and taking care of myself is important. So I would do really good for the most part during the week, sometimes on Thursdays, but especially when I was kid-free. But I would really destroy a lot of it on the weekends. And on Mondays, I would just like feel inflamed, make myself work out. And I would often tell myself I need to stop drinking alcohol. And it usually would be on a Saturday or Sunday after I did something bad or something I wasn't proud of. And I had one particular summer where I switched to liquor because I was trying to lose weight because I gained weight because I was drinking so much. And, I had a lot of body image issues. And what would happen was is I would black out drunk. I've done so many embarrassing things that I would never do sober. And I seriously would said so many times, I need to stop drinking alcohol. I never listened because I thought I had to be bad, even though that was bad. And even though I wasn't drinking every day, I think my definition of someone who would have to get sober would be you have to have a drinking problem, which meant you had to drink every day of the week. You were like, I don't know if I thought they had to be like, use air phrase, alcoholic, even though like now I would never say some of these things. I don't think these things, but then there wasn't really any of the sober stuff that was non-traditional. There was AA, and I honestly thought I had to be worse than I was to stop drinking. I didn't think I could stop. So I would try to do water, and I would go up and down with my drinking throughout the years. I'd drink less sometimes, drink more, but it was like promises to myself that I would break. And drinking to me is like Russian roulette, where it would work sometimes with moderating, and sometimes it would never work. And I was really into mommy wine culture. Everyone knew that I loved red wine. They would send me things. So my identity was extremely wrapped up with drinking alcohol. And I thought it was fun. I thought it's what everyone did. So the thought of not drinking forever was not even in my mindset in my mid 30s. But the catalyst was when we moved to Florida in 2021. And I just kept drinking and kept drinking and kept drinking. And then the last time before I decided I need to stop this was I got really emotional, started crying, which happened quite a bit. And I started, as I got to my later 30s, I started getting woken up in the middle of the night with alcohol. Also, when I blacked out, it was so awful. I'd wake up at 2, 3, or 4, just not being able to go back to bed because I was like, oh my gosh, did I do something? Did I say something? I needed to have my husband wake up so he could tell me. And then it just, as again, like I said, as I got to my later 30s, it just really disrupted my sleep on top of already making me feel emotional. So my 39th birthday, I decided I need to stop drinking. And I listened to This Naked Mind Audible and went on my alcohol-free journey. And I stopped drinking for about 6 months myself. In month 2, I remember having anxiety, but it was a little bit hard to do by myself. So and 6 months in, I did drink again, but I drank very little throughout that period. And it was really important because it made me really mindful of how I felt when I was drinking. So once I was in the airport and I drank a little bit before I got on the plane, and I was on the plane and I felt so depressed, like abnormally depressed, not normal for me. And I'm like, it was the alcohol because I didn't keep drinking. I felt the depressant. So I could see that. And the last time I drank, was November of 2022, which is my sober date, was I had a, particularly awful day at work. I was so stressed out. And then my husband and I were having date night, and I just assumed, well, he probably would rather me drink. So I'm a people pleaser. It's not a trait I would recommend, but because I people pleased, I thought, well, he would want me to drink. I had no evidence. So, I'm not saying he made me drink, but I'm saying that it kind of goes into why I drink. And throughout this whole experience, I tricked myself to thinking I could try to moderate, and it doesn't work. I drank like 2 glasses of wine, and because my tolerance was down, not only was I emotional because I didn't actually deal with anything like coping wise for that day, but I had such bad GI upset. I slept awful. So the next day I woke up and I'm like, I can't drink anymore. That is it. I'm done drinking. And that was the last time I drank.
Mm, wow. Yeah, I mean, you said so much there that I think resonates with me and will resonate with the person listening as well. Identity is such a core thing. People think they have to also wait until it's really bad, whatever really bad means to them, because that is completely subjective. And the moderation piece as well, that you can moderate and it works, and actually it ends up being probably more hard work than you want it to be. And then also the anxiety and the depression, and the fact that you said that you don't feel depressed normally, but you actually recognized because you hadn't drunk, it was because of the alcohol, because alcohol absolutely exacerbates stress, anxiety, depression. So I'm fascinated about all of that. And I think one of the things that I'd love to maybe dig into is the identity piece, because that is such a key part to any behavioral change. And how did you go about that? And then maybe before we go there, you said you did 6 months on your own. So what was different this time as well?
So I'll answer the second question first. So what I didn't do that I would recommend anybody do, although I don't regret my journey, is get support. I did everything by myself, not knowing how to do anything at all. And I just knew that I needed to make this change. But because I didn't have support or someone to talk to, I tricked myself a lot, especially 6 months after I decided to stop drinking, that maybe I'll have one. I felt like a lot of anxiety and pressure because our next door neighbors were drinking. They're like, "Are you drinking?" And I wanted to come up with excuses because I was really at that time not ready to tell people I was not drinking because I felt embarrassed. And I felt like someone might think something's wrong with me. Because again, I'm a people pleaser. And I also didn't feel like I could express that. I still had that shame that there's something wrong with people who don't drink, even though I think I wanted to do this thing, I still held on to that belief that people who stop drinking, they must have a problem. I didn't want people to know. And I do think that's still something that was wrapped in part of my identity at that time. I wasn't ready to give up all of it because I didn't know how to. It wasn't that, like, maybe if I figured this out. No, I had no clue how to figure it out. I think it's like throwing spaghetti at a wall and hoping it'll stick. There was parts where I loved sobriety in the beginning, like being able to go and dance and feeling great the next morning. Yet I still felt like I was missing out. And so everyone around me drank. I was the only one that stopped drinking. So that was even more difficult. And yes, my identity was so much around alcohol. I didn't really understand at that time that I wasn't doing really anything that different. Okay, I was listening to podcasts and books, but I wasn't doing anything different in my life. So it was hard for me to actually, I think, at that current time, to totally not do this 100% because I didn't have that support. And also, I tricked myself into thinking I could moderate after I drank again, and I wasn't really ready to give up that yet. I had to have it happen a couple more times to be like, no, this is really hard. You can't keep drinking. This isn't what you want. Because the mind, though, it tricks you. And I always tell people, if you've been drinking for so many years, to stop drinking and for it to like be always easy is not realistic for most people. So I had to work on so much, and I'm still working on myself. I don't desire drinking anymore. And my identity is different, but yeah, my identity really was this wine drinker. So people were surprised when I stopped drinking because I didn't seem like I had a problem because I wasn't like shaky or doing whatever people thought a problematic drinker would, but it was problematic for me, very much so.
And I think that's what you raise a really important point there, where you say it was problematic for you. And I think that is the point, isn't it? It doesn't matter how much you're drinking or how little you're drinking. If you think it's problematic in some way for you, then you should give yourself permission to take a break or to stop drinking. And I tend to say that if you think life can be better in some way, physically, emotionally, spiritually, or mentally, then definitely take a break and go from there, regardless of whether you're drinking a glass of wine a week or you're drinking however many. So I think that's a really important point that you raise there. And it is a really tricky one, isn't it, when you are surrounded by people who if everyone around you drinks, it is how do you navigate that? And so you said that the last time you drank, you went on a date night with your husband and you felt like you needed to drink because you expected that he expected you to drink, but there's no validation there. It was just something that you'd said to yourself. And that obviously your neighbors drank and they were asking you why weren't you drinking and everything else, and your friends. So what was different this time? What changed?
I think I committed to sobriety. I think deep down I did want to get sober in the beginning, but think I don't think I was really ready. And I don't believe that I was ready. Again, I didn't have support either. So it wasn't like I had someone to be like, well, this is normal to feel this way, and this is how I can help you. When I stopped drinking, I was taking a walk the next day, and I was like in a really good mood because I was like, I'm ready to stop drinking. And then I heard myself say, and this is crazy, but it's my intuition, doors will open if you stop drinking alcohol. And so sometimes I'm like, okay, got to keep trucking along. And I also did get support in January of 2023 for people that were ready to stop drinking, to talk about purpose. And I do believe that really helped me solidify more of my sober journey. I obviously can't predict what wouldn't have happened. However, I think because I didn't know that there was this huge sober space until I saw this advertisement, so I guess they do work, about the sober group. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is cool. This is different. It's not the mainstream AA. And again, there's nothing wrong with AA. However, I'm not a big fan of labels. And I, again, didn't feel like I just resonated with that. So I think that was really instrumental in me staying sober and understanding things in a different level because I didn't before. Even when I decided to stop drinking for good, in the beginning, I still felt like I was missing out. I still had difficulty saying I'm sober and wanted to hide it a little bit, still felt some shame about it. So like, and now I'm like, yeah, this is my new identity. I'm excited for it. It's just part of my health journey, and that's what it is. And there's no shame or guilt for it. So I can resonate when people are in the beginning stages and their sobriety journey because that's where I was, and I totally get it. There's so much stigma about sobriety, and I think the problem with the stigma is it doesn't really matter where anyone's in their sober journey, but I do feel like if you are somebody who's a binge drinker and doesn't drink daily, it can be hard to find that motivation because you think you can control it technically during the week, but on the weekend, sometimes things get out of hand. So alcohol is tricky.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And it's an addictive substance. And also the habits around alcohol, I think, is what the issue is. Because as you say, as a binge drinker, you wouldn't maybe dare drink in the week. But as soon as Thursday, Friday, Saturday came, that's what you did. And that's just the habit and the programming of your subconscious mind that this is when I drink. And so again, with it being summer, for example, a lot of people think, the sun's out, I need to go to a barbecue and I need to drink, or I'm going on a holiday, so I need to drink. Amazing how many things we associate with drinking and how much of a habit it actually becomes, which then leads to a point where you think, well, okay, I'm not that bad, but it's not serving me anymore. And I know deep down that it isn't. And I love the fact that you had that inner knowing or thought or whatever it was that came to you that said that life would be better if you stopped drinking. And so what's happened since?
So, oh yes, that was crazy. I wrote it down in my intuition book because that was wild. So since I stopped drinking, I really embraced this concept of finding purpose and meaning. And what I didn't know when I was drinking, and I think it's so easy to not have access to things when you are numbing out or chasing a buzz because your life is not as fulfilled as you think it was. And I think that's where I was, is even though I love my social work career, I think there's been always something else I wanted to do and I couldn't figure it out. And I didn't know how to access what I needed. And this was also with my needs in my relationships and just getting to know myself. So, really, sobriety has helped with all of those things. Not right away. It took me time to develop all this. So I think a lot of times when we hear people say sobriety is amazing, it is. It totally is. But there's parts of it that you're like, why is this so bad? And it's not even the drinking part. It's, oh my gosh, I have to get to know myself. And that can be hard and wonderful at the same time. I go more in the wonderful because I'll explain. So I ended up thinking about purpose. I'm taking a walk, and I feel like taking walks for me helps my intuition. Was on a walk and thought about writing a kid's book. And I was like, that's weird. I mean, that's not something at least that I can't remember in my childhood. Maybe I thought about writing a book, but it doesn't come to my mind. So since that, I've written 3 children's books and published 2.
Wow. Mm.
Yeah, so and that's been really cool and something unexpected. And the program I was in to help me stay sober and work on purpose, she was launching her certificate. I have worked in sobriety, actually. It's funny. I worked in substance use prior to getting sober. I'm like, gosh, I would have been so much better at this now that I've had my own experience and learned things differently.
Mm.
That being said, is even with that experience and mental health experience, I still ended up doing a coaching certificate, not just around sobriety coaching, but other coaching modalities. And I found that to be really helpful. And all that's really solidified my sobriety because the more I learn, the more I realize that I really haven't, I thought I knew a lot of stuff, but I really haven't had access to really deeply know myself. And also, I did not know anything about alcohol. I
Mm.
was very, very shocked when I found out alcohol was a class 1 carcinogen and just all the statistics. And before coaching, I really felt like I wanted to tell everybody about what I was doing. Granted, I couldn't, but I had no spot, no space to talk about sobriety. And it was something that I really, really, really wanted. And so I obviously have Instagram now and talk about sobriety. I feel like it's a safe space to talk about it, which is why I also started my podcast, which is very exciting because I feel like talking and communication is something that I really enjoy. And I feel like I am fulfilling my purpose. I'm not done. I don't know where this is going to take me, but I get to work now with people to help them on their sober journey, which is very rewarding. I continue to work on myself. I don't know any coach or any person that just stops working on themselves and says, we're good to go. So I've had to also work on a lot of things that I've ignored in my life. My husband is now sober almost 90 days, and his drinking impacted me. And I think I ignored it for a really long time and thought I couldn't tell someone what I felt. And I think I was twisting it where we can't tell people necessarily that they have to stay sober. They have to figure that out for themselves. But I think I got a little lost in all this. I was doing my business, I was just doing all the things, and I wasn't connecting with what I wanted, and I kind of ignored things. So I think in my personal journey of everything that happened after sobriety, I think I really have started to identify my needs. And one of them was talking to my husband about my needs and what I saw with him. And obviously, he had to figure this out on his own. But I think I've ignored my needs for a very long time. And it's took me getting sober and even after sobriety, a couple of years after to figure all this out. And so I'm very happy. I think this is the path I'm meant to go on. I don't know exactly how it's going to go, and I've come to a little bit more peace with my own anxiety as
Mm.
well, and that's been really helpful. And also having these more feelings of feeling worthy. And I know as as a business owner, it's a lot of uncomfortable feelings and a lot of things get brought to the surface. So first I got sober, which is uncomfortable in itself,
Mm.
new. Then I started a business. And so it's been a lot of things that I've had to work on to feel better in my skin. So, for example, when I started my business and it got overwhelming because I'm someone that wants to do everything all the time and it doesn't always serve me. But because I did that, I wanted to quit really bad because it was so uncomfortable and I was overwhelmed. And it made me realize that I've done this multiple times in my life. I've switched majors. And even though I got a master's degree, and I'm not saying I'm not successful, but I done things that were easier so I didn't fail them. And that in itself was huge. Also not feeling worthy. And I feel like between sobriety and running a business and starting a business is like the most personal growth It's like shoved in my face. So it's been good, but it's been hard sometimes. But I feel like it's like the universe is preparing me to receive more because I can't receive more if I'm not in a place to receive. I can't coach people if I don't have a story to tell and I can't help them with their story or with their future. So I can show them that, as you can, that, yeah, this is going to suck sometimes, but it's so much better and it will get better the more you get to know yourself, trust yourself, and learn that sobriety is not just about removing a beverage, it's about changing so much to get what you actually really deep down want, because I wasn't going after what I wanted. I was going after what was easy, and I had no clue what I wanted, to be honest, until I really got sober.
Mm. Yeah, that's a really interesting point, and it's amazing the number of people that just don't know what they want. It's very common. I ask clients what is it you want, and they can't tell me, and because one, you don't ask yourself normally, or two, you've been numbing out in some way or just escaping, trying not to think about it and keeping yourself busy or doing various things just to not answer that. And so I absolutely agree with you. I think being alcohol free, being sober is a huge personal growth journey. But I also say that if you are able to do it, it means you can then go on and do anything else because once you've been through this, because you've been uncomfortable in so many ways, you can absolutely go and start a business. You can absolutely go and do whatever you want to do. It makes you brave and it makes you feel like actually I can conquer the world. And I think getting to know yourself and being able to manage and process those emotions and feeling comfortable sitting in those emotions is such a it's a tough thing, and life still happens even when you stop drinking. And so it's not like it's all rainbows and skittles. It isn't. Life is life, and you still have to get on with things, and things still come, and they're not necessarily good, but it's how you manage it. So how have you found processing emotions? And you talked about your anxiety as well. How's that been since you've been alcohol free?
And so in the beginning, I didn't really have a handle on it. I'd have good days and then bad days. And I didn't realize I was very disconnected from, again, my needs. So I would feel anxious. I'd be working in the business or doing something, and I'd feel really anxious. And obviously, I don't drink, but in the past, I've gone to eat food. It's
Mm,
been kind of that coping strategy has been food, and it's
mm,
been in my past too. So it wasn't like it just started. Um, so I've had to really ask myself is why am I anxious? And now I didn't just all come up with this by myself. I listen to a lot, do a lot of personal development, but I
mm,
started to listen to things about the nervous system. And
mm,
that blew my mind because
mm,
I was like, oh my gosh, my body knew there was something wrong, but my mind was like distorting things. And so what the couple things I've done is, so when I feel anxious, why am I anxious? Why am I anxious? Like I have to get to the point of why. So with my husband, I was anxious because I mean, and some of the stuff is you can be anxious and be worried, and like some of it's legit, right? Like I'm not saying you can
mm,
never feel this way, but there's something about just thinking about things and not having a resolution or a plan, right? Like if I'm just going to be anxious 7 days a week, that's just like a bad place to be in, and that's feeding into depression, feeding into like productivity, no motivation. And it's because for me, I wasn't addressing my actual needs in the relationship. I was just internalizing lots of things or kind of talking about things, not getting the needs met when I talked about the things I needed and putting up with it. So what I've had to do is say, like, what is the point of this? Like, what do I want to do? And it took me a while to get here, is realizing because I'm not stating what I want, it's causing my body to have a reaction. It's causing me to feel anxious. It's causing me to feel unsafe with this emotion. And in the past, I likely have people pleased, have frozen, have some type of trauma response. And in the past, probably drank, didn't know it, but that's because that was just part of my routine. And now I go to food, or I go to overthinking, or I go to just working and working and working more. So I was really disconnected. So what I've really realized, which is I'm so thankful that I realized this, is I'm I was disconnected from my intuition. It was telling me to do things. I just didn't want to do them and I didn't understand it. So some of the anxiety I had was because I wasn't actually like addressing my needs. And so I started to do that. That's been really helpful. So if I feel something in my body, okay, what's going on? Why am I uncomfortable? Why? I keep asking my sessions why. Because, for example, with my business, I felt like anxious and overwhelmed. It was because I, like, again, wanted to quit because it was overwhelming. Because in the past I quit. And then it really boiled down to I don't feel worthy, which has happened in my childhood somewhere. Don't know exactly the date, the time. But that thing is that people don't realize how deep some of these things go. And it sounds very exhausting, but with awareness, we can go, oh, so I don't feel worthy, like I deserve more in a relationship. So I don't tell them my needs. This is something I've done in the past. And now my reality is kind of like not the greatest in this circumstance. And same with my business. Maybe I want to quit my job and coach and write books and do all this. And then I'm like worrying about like, I have to figure this out. I have to figure this out right now. And then I'm like, okay, well, why am I putting all this energy into worrying about the future? Just like I did with drinking in month two, I put so much energy into something that I don't and can't predict. And I realized, wow, this doesn't make any sense. Why don't I just do what I'm going to do right now? Have faith that it's going to work out. But if I actually spend all this energy worrying, I'm not having energy to do my business. I'm not having energy to be with my family. I'm continue to be disconnected to myself because I'm freaking out and I'm making it more in my head that it has to be. So I'm spending all this energy without actually having a solution. Okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Let's journal and figure it out. What do I need today? And what are my beliefs around, for example, my business? Am I not feeling worthy again? What's up with that? And realizing that my energy needs to be put in creating and building, and not saying I'm not allowed to be worried and upset, but if you're in your head all the time being worried and playing out negative scenarios, that is where you are all the time, like all the time. And you can't create, you can't build things. And then there's no solutions with that. What are the solutions? You're never going to get better, right? Instead of saying, oh, I can't, like if I think about my husband's in the worst case scenario, well, why don't I address it? Why am I not addressing it? So I was asking myself wrong questions. And so that's a little bit. And so now I'm just like, okay, I don't have to have all the answers. I don't. And I can't have them right now because right now, this is where I'm at in my life. My husband is 90 days sober, almost 90 days sober, which is very exciting. And with my business, is that I really love doing this. And right now, I can't quit my job full time, that I'm working full time. And that's okay. This is maybe the perfect place for me right now. Why we work on things and why I continue to grow my business. And I always think maybe the universe isn't ready to give you that because it's not the time. It's not that like you're not amazing and wonderful, but I think we often quit things before they get good because we tell ourselves how we can't have that. We don't deserve that. And often you'll get this. It's not even on a conscious level that we're destructing ourselves and self-sabotaging.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said so many good things there. And I do think we worry a lot about the how. And actually, when you think about manifestation, I know you're going to talk a bit more about that, but it's never about the how. It's the, it's the what do you want, and then what is the next best action to take, and then it continues. And that's very much being in the present. And I love what you talked about in terms of regulating your nervous system. And for people that don't know, that could be as simple as just breathing, just stopping and breathing deeply, and maybe doing things like box breathing, which is really good for anxiety, where you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4, and just repeat that a few times just to get to the point where you're basically saying to your brain that you are safe. That's all it is when we talk about regulating your nervous system. And I think it's really easy to get overwhelmed and to overthink and to want to know all the answers. But again, to your point, it's about asking the right questions. And I think a lot of us don't ask the right questions. We ask questions that are disempowering as opposed to empowering. And the other trick as well is before we go to bed, because when we sleep, a lot of our activities happen, a lot of thoughts happen and things happen as we're sleeping. So before you go to bed, asking those right questions and letting your brain go to work on them, because the answer comes. And to your point, when you walk, I also think you've asked these questions either in the shower or when you're walking, all the answers suddenly come to you, and it's really simple. But to your point, if you are trying to create, trying to build, trying to do in a state where you've got a dysregulated nervous system, where you are trying to know all the answers, that you freeze and you can't take those steps, you'll be in the same place a year from now. So it's really wonderful. Personally, I think that you have discovered all of this. So maybe talk a little bit. You describe yourself as a manifestation coach as well as an alcohol, sober coach. But I'd love to hear a bit more about that and what you do there.
So for me, it's very much because of part of my journey. So I actually got into manifestation before I quit drinking. It was an accident. I was on YouTube. We were trying to move to Florida, and the company that I work for, I wanted to transfer to Florida, so I had to apply for jobs. And so I started listening to things on manifestation, and I was like, this is so cool, like visualization and all this fun stuff. The one thing though with myself and with clients is what do you like you question, what do you want?
Mm.
And a lot of people don't know, and that's okay. We don't have to know, like you said, we don't have to have all the answers. But with manifestation is you can manifest for me. So in 2022, I have like every year I think of things I want to manifest, and they're not like ridiculous things like millions of dollars, but I've learned quite a bit about manifestation since I stopped drinking. In 2022, I put I wanted to get healthy from a manifestation, stop drinking. That was my manifestation. It wasn't necessarily I want to write books and have a podcast. Like none of that was, it wasn't even like I could never have thought that at that stage. So sometimes people are like, they can't think of that right now because they have to get through one phase to get to the next phase. So with that manifestation is when you say like, okay, I want to manifest, let's say, I know drinking's not, it's not straightforward, obviously. And there's an addicting component to it, but I did that. And so what happened was I decided I wanted to do this. And granted, it was not perfect. I drink again and I had to figure it out. When we are open, things come to us. So when I stopped drinking and I figured it out, because it was my intention to manifest that, it was in the
Mm.
forefront. I put it down on paper. And there is something about putting things down on paper from research too, not just from me, that you
Yeah.
put it down. But, you know, how am I going to get it? Okay, for me, it was I'm going to get this audiobook. I'm going to start January 10th and after my birthday weekend because I drank the whole birthday week. But I started on my actual birthday. And so I had a plan. And so I didn't know how I was going to do it, which is very anxiety provoking, but I did it. Right. And then when I was a little bit more stable with my plan of sobriety, what did I want to do next? Okay, in my 2023, I put find more purpose. I put that intention again, find more purpose. I wrote books and got into a coaching certificate and started my coaching business. Now, that sounds like a ton of things like, oh my God, that's amazing. What was problematic is with manifestation and what people say make vision boards and affirmations, which is great. But if you don't believe that you can have the thing you want, or for me, early on before I got sober, I was manifesting things that were, I don't want to say easy. I mean, it's not like I don't have all these amazing things, and I'm very thankful for my life. My point is that I did not know how to dream big. I was very much like, this is what it has to be like. And even though I was not happy with every part of my life, I was not miserable, but I wasn't fulfilled. And so to me, manifestation is what do you want? And how do you get that? So some of it really is, like you said, working on the nervous system, feeling safe to receive more by breathing, by getting to know yourself. And I'm doing it again. I'm having this response where I'm freaking out. Why am I freaking out? Oh, I don't feel worthy. So if you want to become an author and you're like, okay, I'm going to write this book, but you're like, "Ugh, I can't write this book. No one's going to want to read this. You're not going to write the book, even though you want it. You're writing down your manifestation. So part of it is believing in yourself that you can have what you want. And I know that's so hard though, because some people are in these dire situations. How can I get more? And it might just be baby steps. Like it doesn't have to be, start a company and win millions of dollars. I mean, that sounds great, but money doesn't bring happiness, right? It's being grateful for where we are right now. And it's hard to think that when you're in the midst of trying to stop drinking or in the midst of trying to do something big with your life. So sometimes it's really regulating, getting support from other people. So when I work with people, it just depends on where people are in their journey, because sometimes thinking about manifesting a new job or something is impossible. Like I said, they have to get to the first phase. But like you said, people don't know how to dream big. So to me, when I got sober, I'm like, I wasn't dreaming big enough. I
Mm.
was playing it so small and life small, and I didn't believe in myself. And so, yeah, I was able to manifest a different job in my current position because it's all I knew. It was safe for my body. So, anything you do that's new, your body actually feels unsafe and tells your body, like, it puts you in that fight, flight, fawn, freeze state. So, that's what was happening when I was doing really big things. Is I was like, it felt really uncomfortable in my body, which is why we start having anxiety. We breathe heavy, maybe. We feel off. We feel millions of emotions, and we don't know that it's okay to do those things. So with manifestation, what do you want? Start small and then you can work up, but do you believe you can have that thing? And then are you dreaming big enough? And this is where you might need to work with somebody or really start asking yourself questions like, what do I want? And why can't I have that? Because I don't want to live a life anymore that I'm just half living. And to me, that's what drinking was. I was half living my life, didn't know what I wanted, and I couldn't manifest the things that are meant for me. And it's bigger than me. And I want to just share this because I thought this was so smart. Sometimes we get into our head is, oh my God, I can't get this. This is too hard. And we live there and we can't manifest and we don't know why we can't manifest. And sometimes like you and I, since we're coaches, we might be somebody's manifestation, right? Like if we don't do the thing that we're supposed to do, we might not be able to help somebody and help them with their manifestation. Because I believe you can manifest health, which is sobriety. At
Mm.
the end of the day, it's just like you said, it's letting go of how we're going to do it. Anxiety at the end of the day and worrying is somewhat too trying to control a situation. If I just worry and have anxiety like all day, I can control this uncontrollable situation. And I can tell you is when you decide I want to stop drinking, and then you open up your mind and say, all right, universe, bring me what I'm supposed to have to help me on this journey. Like I did, I saw an ad for a program with Carolina, and I got into that space, and that was what I needed at that time. So it's not that we have to always do everything alone with manifestation either. It's also asking the universe and looking at those nudges we get too, like, oh, you should do this. Or someone might come randomly in your life, and you're like, well, that's weird. And it's all part of it to help you find out what you need. But you got to keep listening to those nudges that say, hey, you should stop drinking. Maybe you should do this podcast with you. We talked about it. I didn't start my
Mm.
podcast for a while, and I'm okay with it, but I think I would have kept it not doing it because I said, well, I don't have time and I don't have this and that. And lo and behold, it turns out I have some time. And also, one of my manifestations is to become more visible and find other ways than just social media to get this message about sobriety and manifestation and growth out to the world. And if I, and so that's why the best example is I was limiting myself because I wanted this, but I wasn't doing anything to get it because I was telling myself why I couldn't have it. Instead of saying, well, okay, maybe I don't have all the answers, but I still want this and I'm still going to do all these things and listening to yourself. And then if you say, I should do a podcast, but why don't you want to do it? What are your buts? Those are usually your limiting beliefs or the things you've told yourself, some type of trauma, maybe that why you can't have what you want. And those are the things you need to work on.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think it's fundamental that you have to believe whatever it is you say you want, because otherwise, if you believe it, it's not going to happen. It truly does matter what you believe and what you don't believe. And I think as well, when you talked about setting the intention, that is so important to be able to manifest anything. You do need to set the intention because your thoughts basically create everything. And depending on if they're positive thoughts, negative thoughts, that's the situation you end up in. So yeah, fascinating. And I loved everything you said. And so you've talked a lot about it being a health journey and that wanting to be on that health journey. So what do you consider your health journey was and how has it changed over the years?
So I actually was probably, and I'm going to say this on purpose because I want to show just like whatever you look like or your weight does not always mean you're healthy. I was probably thinner then back when I was drinking, but I was restricting and then sometimes not eating as many carbs and drinking. So my relationship with my body was not healthy. Yes, I looked thinner. I had a maybe smaller stomach, and I'm not a big person, but to me, the thing is with health is I knew that alcohol wasn't healthy. I could sense it, right? Like this isn't making me healthy. So to me, having health isn't just about working out, it's about how I work out now. So I work out and have to have a routine because I really feel disconnected from myself if I don't. I got in a habit there for a couple months where I wasn't working out as consistently. I was like doing too much with business stuff and it wasn't serving me. And I'm like, oh, I got to get back to it. So to me, as health is really honoring your needs first. So that could be that's my working out routine. That's me taking walks on a regular basis. That's my spiritual practice as well, because I look at health as the whole body, and part of that for me is spirituality. So I meditate, I journal. This doesn't have to be a long practice. I don't do like 4 hours of this. I don't have the time, but I am a morning person now. I actually really, really enjoy waking up in the morning and doing these routines. Sometimes I don't want to always wake up, but um, I enjoy it. Like before, I'd wake up to work out. I didn't have any meditation routine. And on Mondays, when I would wake up, if I drank the whole weekend, it was just awful. I had the inflammation. So to me, I get excited to have these morning routines and it really sets me off right. And lately I've been, and I feel like this is really good too for your health because sometimes people get really tripped up on trying to do 54 things. And sometimes it's like, what do you need today? What is the one thing you need today? And going with that thing. And also, too, with me as nutrition, it's not about eating like perfect, but it's about eating healthy things. When I was really anxious with everything, I noticed, like I mentioned, an uptake in more my emotional eating. So that really, all these things really just disconnect me from my intuition. And I feel really out of alignment. And I think to me, health is feeling more in alignment with how you want to feel like. And it doesn't mean you're gonna be skinny or fit some mold. And I think a lot of this also again goes down to worthiness. Like for me, growing up, I was made fun of because I was bigger. And so to me, I mean, I'm still working on this, but that being skinny doesn't mean you're worthy if you're
Mm.
not. And so
Yeah.
health to me is really just loving yourself and honoring your body's needs. And sobriety is absolutely one of those because you and I both know that it is a toxin. It actually does everything that you're doing good for yourself. It negates it at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like we've spoken a lot about worthiness as well. So I'd love to hear how that's changed for you over the past couple of years. But before we do that, I want to just recommend a book for anyone who might also be thinking about worthiness. And it's really common. There's statistics out there that say 80 to 90% of women don't feel like they are worthy, that about 80% don't like something about their body. Executives feel like they have experience imposter syndrome, about 70-80%. Even men feel there's quite a high percentage of men also don't feel worthy. So there's a book called Worthy by Jamie Kern Lima. So if anyone's struggling with that, then I would absolutely recommend you go and read that book. But I'd love to hear you talked, and I think you said it very well about health, and that's exactly it for me. For me, when I do a lot of running now and yoga. I didn't do that before I stopped drinking. But for me, that isn't about the losing weight. It isn't about any of that. It's really more the mental health side as well. And I think it's so important to think about why you do these things. And if you're not enjoying whatever exercise routine you're doing, don't do it. Do something that you actually get something out of. Don't force yourself to to do routines and exercises that you're not interested in, because once you start doing that, you then have to question, well, what's the reason that you're doing it for? And that then probably comes down to you wanting to hit a weight goal or wanting to do something else.
Yeah.
I would say that something like running, when you get into the flow of it, it's quite a meditative state. And so, really, it's the mental health side, I think, that's just as important as the physical health. And it's being comfortable in your own skin and being able to be your most authentic you. So, if you don't mind sharing, how has worthiness changed for you over the past couple of years?
So for me, it's been amazing to actually realize this. Like what I mentioned before is I didn't know this was playing out, but so with me, it was like not feeling worthy of what I wanted and or worthy that I can get these things. So how it's changed is in my relationship with my husband and anybody in my life that one is wasn't speaking my truth, right? I wasn't saying, hey, I need this. I was saying, I kind of need this. Okay, I'm okay. And I just went back into my shell. So it just kind of reinforces that I don't deserve this. And unfortunately, it's played out in the past, but moving forward, I'm like, no, I absolutely deserve this in a relationship. This is what I want. And when you have that and you're able to tell someone the truth, it's really freeing. And I can tell you right now, you don't know how much your body holds inflammation and stress when you aren't releasing these things, like your chakras, and you're not speaking your truth. You're not going with what your heart wants. You're denying your needs. And so I can no longer do that because it's been just the most unserving thing of my life. And I'm not regretting my life, but you're going to attract relationships that you maybe don't want to attract. You're going to stay in careers you don't want to stay in. You're going to do things for other people, like the people pleasing. Like, I don't feel worthy. I also do whatever they want. And I'm not saying you can't give and take, but if you're doing a bunch of things that aren't serving you, you don't feel good enough, you won't go after your dreams and you won't see your full potential. And the sad part of all that I realized is if I don't do what I'm meant to do, like how many people won't get to maybe meet me or I can't help them or they can't or they can help me. I'm not going to be able to touch lives and help people if I don't feel worthy in my own skin. So it's also I also had to work on not making everything about me, right? It's so easy to be like, oh, people don't want to sign up with coaching or I don't have a lot of likes on Instagram. You make it so much about what's wrong with you and this external stuff instead of
Mm,
going, well, it has nothing to do with me. Like
mm,
you in the substance world, people sometimes it's hard to commit to something or
yeah.
who knows why, but it
Mm,
doesn't always mean it's about you. And
mm,
I think realizing that my worth is not tied in if someone signs up with coaching, if someone wants to pay for coaching, if I get likes on Instagram, if my Instagram gets pushed to more people, it's you have to like really separate from that or I'm not like a certain weight like I was 10 years ago that I'm not unworthy because I don't look a certain way. Like, and so it's really realizing everything is internal. So we try to
mm,
fix the external, like, okay, well, I'm just gonna post more or do this different offer or this different offer, or
mm,
you know what, I'm just gonna try to manifest all these wonderful things, but I don't feel like I can get it. So
mm,
you're constantly in this struggle of why am I not feeling better? And I think for me, it was like, because you don't feel worthy, you're not telling people what you want, you're also not believing you can get your things and you got to figure out why you don't feel that way. And I wasn't feeling worthy and I had to do some work on it and I still do, right? Like
mm,
how many of us also like want more money, but it feels unsafe to get more money in our business. So then we don't feel worthy of that. So it's really a journey of learning about yourself. And it's really taught me, I think, so recently too, that it is so not serving to not trust yourself and listen to yourself. It ends up causing so much chaos. And I don't want to like blame myself or people because I didn't know any better. I didn't know, but now I know that digging deep in and finding out why we do what we do and trying to really say, well, what do I want? What do I want? And so you can really do an inventory of your whole life, like your relationships, your spiritual health, your mental health, your physical health, your career. And am I being honest that I'm happy in all these areas? And it doesn't mean you're going to go get a divorce or you're going to quit your job, but it's giving you more evidence where is there a solution? And that's where I'm at. Okay, if I'm not happy in this one area, what can I do? Right?
Mm.
If I don't want to do this career forever, what can I do? Well, okay, it's not I don't have time, but I don't have to like devote 40 hours, right? It's how we think about things. We distort things, and it all is coming from a place of feeling insecure or being wounded. And I think too many people, because they think, oh, it's trauma, it has to be big. No, trauma can be super small and it can happen over and over and over again. And one person's perception of one thing versus another person's is entirely different. So I think if you look at your childhood, and it's not like you're going to sit on a couch with Freud, but you have to have, I think, some awareness of why we are wired the way we are,
Mm.
and how we can get unwired and really work on ourselves, because it's not that we're broken. And I believe there is mental health diagnoses and people see providers, and I 100% believe in all that. But I think sometimes we classify ourselves as, oh, we have anxiety, and that's who we are. And that's how we get defined, right? Versus saying, you know
Mm.
what? Yeah, maybe this is happening to me, but how do I like figure out a way to deal with this? And it might take a couple years. And for me, it's taken time for me to get all this information, but I'm thankful for it, because otherwise I'd probably be still feeling a little bit not in alignment with everything. And what I mean with that is, like, if you are in a relationship and you're not speaking your truth, or maybe you're with someone you don't really want to be with, maybe you're in a career that's not exactly that exciting, it one makes drinking easier. And then you don't really connect with yourself. So you must do that internal work to be like, okay, what's up? How do I start feeling more worthy? So for me, it's reminding myself that no, that's the buts. No. Why do I feel this way? So sometimes it is a little bit of work, right? I got a journal, like, I'm feeling anxious. Why am I feeling anxious? Okay, this happened. Now what? Now what? Okay, well, something's feeling unsafe. So sometimes now when I feel anxious, I'm like, okay, what's unsafe, Chrissy? Okay, you're expanding, you're going to do this new program, or you're going to do something new, and your body feels dysregulated because it's new and it feels unsafe. So, okay, it's safe. It's okay if you do this. It's okay if no one signs up, who cares? If this feels in alignment with what you need to do in your life, you got to keep going on and not making it about your worthiness. And so that's like
Mm.
the biggest takeaway. Like, you know, as entrepreneurs, it's very hard sometimes. It's a lot of work, but it's the work that we love to do. So it's reminding myself on a regular basis that why am I doing this, and not making this about me and my worth.
Mm. Yeah. And ultimately, you're worthy because you are. That's it. There's nothing tied to it. You just are worthy.
And I don't believe like I would have had all these things happen to me if I wasn't supposed to somehow go on this path, right? So sometimes it's reminding yourself that, yeah, I'm worthy, but there's a bigger cause in this. There's something
Mm.
that if I prevent myself from moving forward, that's not what the universe wants for me. So I have to get out of my head and figure out my stuff so I can move forward and help more people and do whatever I'm meant to do on this planet Earth. Because I do believe this is my soul mission. And maybe it'll look different in 2 years. I don't know. But at the current moment, if I continue to say, no, I don't have many social media followers, but what if they don't like me? Or what? Then I'm, no. You know what? I'm going to attract some people. I'm not going to attract everybody, but I'm worthy of working with people. I know what removing alcohol does. I know the life you can have. And if I don't share that, it's because it's up here and it needs to come from the heart. Why am I doing this? Why on some days don't want to do it? And it's about sometimes taking a break and going, okay, I got to reset. We're human. We
Mm.
aren't computers. We sometimes do need a reset, and we have days, and just everybody has a day. So it's really having grace with yourself, loving yourself, and not feeling like you have to do everything right now. I think a lot of it's hustle culture. And yes, we do have to work at things, and there are strategies, and there's things we have to do if we want to manifest them. They don't just all plop into our lap by thinking about it, but it's also, okay, what do I need today? Because if I'm feeling constricted and I go to try to do something and I feel really anxious, I mean, that's not going to be good either. So it's honoring your bodies, and when you need a break and when you need to not hustle more, not work more. Sometimes it's working less and just letting it flow. So it's about ebbs and flows. And like I said, ask your body in your journal question, what do I need today? Like, what does my soul need today? Sometimes it might just be, I needed to just a nice walk. It doesn't have to be 45 different things. Because I think sometimes as humans, we're like, we have to keep going. We got to keep doing the things. And we're taught that almost as a kid. You just keep working hard, you get everything you want. And you're like, okay, I'm working hard and I'm not getting everything I want. Something's flawed.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you're right. It all comes down to being present as well, doesn't it? In terms of asking yourself that question, what is it that I need today? And it is about just thinking about how can I be as present as I can be today, and how do I serve the people that I need to serve today? And how do I make sure that my needs are being met today? And then you move on to the next one, and not needing to know in 6 months or in 2 years, as you said, you might have a completely different mission in 2 years, but just do what you know as of today. We can only do what we know with the information we have at this precise moment. And being able to let go as well and not feel like you have to control everything and know everything and know what's coming next, and being comfortable with that. And it is uncomfortable, but it's certainly worthwhile, and it's definitely less stressful. So yeah.
Yes, no, it so much is. And I think if we can, we're going to do the things we need to do to go on our growth journeys, our sobriety journeys, our business journeys. We're going to do the things, but I think realizing that there's the 3D and 5D, and if anyone's into spirituality, it's the things that maybe are in our reality and we just don't know it. And it's
Yeah.
oftentimes can be more exciting than we think, and it can go off in a different direction. So if we're constantly obsessed with the outcome and it has to be this way, we will miss things. And also, I don't want to live that way anymore. I think that's what also kind of got me to the place that I'm at now, is that I don't want to be anxious and feeling this way. It's just not fun, and it's just so energy exhausting. And I'm just trading in one addiction for a mind addiction of thinking about how I can control something. So it's having fun too in all this. We have to do things that are enjoyable.
Absolutely. And on that note, as we come towards the end of the episode, I'd love to hear, what does thriving alcohol-free mean for you then?
So I know I said this earlier, but to me, it's like living the most like dreamiest life and doing things that you never thought were possible. And I said this before, but being in alignment with who you are and what you want to create.
Yeah, I love that. Doing things you never thought were possible. And I do think alignment is key, but it's knowing what your alignment is as well, and getting to that point where you do get to know your alignment because you have that focus and clarity to be able to get there. So thank you. And so if people wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you, Chrissy?
Well, I have a website. I know you might share some stuff too in your
Yeah, I
in your
will, of
show notes, but I'm
course.
at
Yeah.
Chrissy Janiga, just my name, and I don't have like a sober handle. But yeah, it's at Chrissy Janiga, www.chrissyjaniga. So I mean, I you can always email me, message me on Instagram. I love talking to people and just connecting with those that want any kind of help or just to make a new friend.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. And so is there any last bit of wisdom that you want to share with the listener?
The only thing I could say is obviously you have to figure out if you are on a sober journey, but to listen to your intuition that says you need to stop drinking. And I know that amongst the chaos in your maybe your brain, your life, or the pain you're dealing with alcohol, that sometimes listening to that voice is the wisest thing, and just taking baby steps or taking a week off or getting help. Just advise to listen to that voice because you're being nudged for a reason.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being such a wonderful guest on the podcast. And yeah, I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Well, thank you, Chrissy. It was so lovely to speak to you. And I do hope you found that episode helpful. And it also maybe made you think it might be time for you to take a break, or you might have tried to take a break in the past and you're not sure whether you'd like to again or whether it will work, then as I said at the beginning of the podcast, then join me on the Alcohol Free August Challenge. You can absolutely do it. You'll absolutely love it. And you'll see so many benefits. And maybe like Chrissy, you'll be able to say that thriving alcohol free means living the dreamiest life and doing things that you never thought you could. And so, yeah, have the most fabulous week. And I do hope you join me on the Alcohol Free August Challenge. And feel free to let me know if you have any questions or need any guidance as we go, which I will try and include when I go live. And yeah, I am excited for you. And I know that this August is going to be the best yet. Okay, take care of yourself, and I will see you on the next episode. See ya. Thank you so much for listening to the Thrive Alcohol Free podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe so you get alerted every time I drop a new episode. I'd love it if you could rate, review, and share this episode. Feel free to tag me on Instagram at Thrive Alcohol Free and follow me for daily tips. If you would like to work with me, I offer one-to-one coaching sessions and group coaching program. If you're not yet ready for coaching, I also have a self-paced online course, which is a companion to my book, A Cocktail of Clarity. All the links are in the show notes. I will see you in the next episode. Have a wonderful week. Take care.